At the rehearsal, my brother quietly muttered, "I've been with your fiancée recently. You deserve to know." I replied, "Repeat that." I grabbed the mic and made him say it again in front of nearly 80 people. She went pale. Her parents started crying, and my dad simply told him, "Pack your things, you're finished here." At the rehearsal, my brother quietly muttered, "I've been with your fiancée recently. You deserve to know." The words didn't land like a punch. They landed like gravity, slow, certain, impossible to escape. The ballroom buzzed with soft laughter and clinking glasses. White roses hung from gold stands. My fiancée stood 20 feet away, radiant in cream silk, smiling at something my mother said. She looked perfect, untouchable. My brother stood beside me, hands in his pockets, eyes fixed on the floor like he'd just dropped something fragile and didn't know how to pick it up. I studied his face. Not drunk, not joking, calm. That terrified me more than anger would have. My chest didn't tighten. My hands didn't shake. Instead, everything inside me went quiet, cold, focused. I leaned closer and said evenly, "Repeat that." He hesitated. Across the room, she laughed again. And in that moment, I realized something with terrifying clarity. They thought I didn't know. They thought I would never ask. I was the older brother, the reliable one, the predictable one. My whole life, people described me with words that sounded like compliments but felt like limits: calm, responsible, easygoing, safe. My brother Ayan was the opposite, louder, sharper, the kind of person who walked into a room and bent attention toward himself without trying. People forgave him faster, excused him easier. Even when he failed, they called it potential. When I succeeded, they called it expected. Growing up, he borrowed my clothes without asking, my car without permission, even my stories, retelling my experiences like they were his own. I let him. Not because I was weak, but because I believed some things weren't worth fighting over. I believed blood meant loyalty. And then there was Sana. She didn't arrive loudly. She arrived carefully. She listened when I spoke, remembered things no one else noticed. She made me feel chosen, not tolerated. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the background character. I was the center. When I proposed, she cried in a way that made everyone else cry too. My parents looked at me like I had finally stepped into the life they always imagined for me. And Ayan had hugged me the longest. That was the part I remembered most. Looking back, the betrayal didn't begin that night. It began in fragments I didn't recognize at the time. Small things, easy to dismiss. Ayan started showing up more often after the engagement. Not unusual. He said he wanted to help. He'd sit too comfortably on the couch beside Sana, leaning in when she showed him something on her phone. Their shoulders would almost touch, then separate when I entered the room. Once I walked in on them laughing. Not ordinary laughter, the kind that stopped too quickly. She cleared her throat. He looked away. "Just a stupid video," she said. He didn't repeat the joke to me. At dinner, he began finishing her sentences. Not in a charming way, in a familiar way, like he'd heard her say those thoughts before. I noticed how she'd glance at him, not long enough to accuse, but long enough to register. And him? He stopped meeting my eyes the same way. There was hesitation now, a flicker of something unfinished. One evening, I mentioned our honeymoon plans. Sana smiled politely. But Ayan froze, just for a second. Then he forced a grin and said, "You deserve it, brother." His voice sounded correct, but it didn't sound true. "Say it again," I told him. Ayan stared at the floor, his jaw tight. Around us, the rehearsal continued, chairs scraping softly, someone testing the microphone with a hollow tap. Life moving forward, unaware it had already cracked. "I've been with Sana," he repeated, quieter this time. Recently? Recently. Not once, not a mistake. A choice, repeated. I watched him carefully. He wasn't asking for forgiveness. He wasn't apologizing. He was relieving himself of the weight and placing it on me. Across the room, Sana caught my eye. She smiled instinctively, the same warm smile that had convinced me she was my future. She didn't know yet. She believed she was still safe inside the version of me. She understood, the calm one, the forgiving one. I realized then that silence would protect them, not me. Silence would let them rewrite this later. Call it confusion. Call it complicated. Call it anything but what it was. Betrayal didn't deserve privacy. It deserved clarity. I looked at the microphone standing, alone in the center of the room, waiting, neutral, powerful in its simplicity. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel the need to protect anyone else's comfort. I felt the need to protect the truth. And I knew exactly how to do it. I didn't react immediately. That was the first decision. Emotion is loud. Strategy is quiet. I spent the next 10 minutes doing what I'd always done best, observing. The rehearsal coordinator handed me the microphone schedule. My name was listed first. A welcome speech. A simple tradition. No one would question it. I checked my phone. The screen reflected my face back at me. Calm, steady, unchanged. Years of working in corporate negotiations had trained me for moments like this. When people lied, they relied on your reaction, your anger, your collapse. But control was power. I looked across the room and saw Sana again. She stood beside my mother now, nodding politely, playing her role perfectly. She hadn't noticed the shift yet. She still believed tomorrow existed. And he stood near the back wall watching me, waiting. He didn't run. That told me everything. Some part of him believed I would protect him, that I would carry this quietly, like I always carried everything else. I understood then that revenge didn't require destruction. It required exposure. I didn't need to accuse anyone. I didn't need evidence or arguments. I only needed the truth spoken clearly, in a room where no one could pretend they hadn't heard it. I walked to the center of the room when they called my name. The microphone felt lighter than I expected. Conversation softened. Glasses lowered. 80 people turned toward me with familiar warmth. Family, friends, people who believed they were here to celebrate something permanent. I let the silence settle first. I want to thank everyone for being here, I began. My voice was steady, unchanged. Before tomorrow, there's something important that deserves honesty. I turned my head slightly. Jan, I said. Come here. A ripple of confusion moved through the room. He hesitated, then stepped forward. Slow. Careful. Like he already knew the ground beneath. Him wasn't solid anymore. I handed him the microphone. His fingers didn't close around it at first. Tell them what you told me, I said quietly. He stared at me, searching for hesitation, mercy, permission to escape. He found none. His voice cracked when he spoke. I've been with Sana recently. The room stopped breathing. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't move. Across from us, Sana's face drained of color. Her hand fell from her mother's arm. And in that silence, the truth did what anger never could. It stayed. No one spoke at first. The silence wasn't empty. It was heavy, alive. Sana's mother began to cry softly, the sound fragile and uncontrollable. Her father stood frozen, his face stiff with the kind of disbelief that slowly turns into understanding. Around the room, people avoided looking at me, not out of judgment, but out of discomfort. They were witnessing something private that had been forced into the light. Sana tried to step forward. I can explain, but there are sentences that arrive too late to matter. My father didn't look at her. He didn't look at me either. He looked at Jan. His voice was calm, controlled, final. Pack your things, he said. You're finished here. Jan didn't argue. For the first time in his life, he had no words strong enough to reshape reality. I realized then that betrayal doesn't just break trust. It reshapes identity. People reveal who they are when there's nothing left to gain. Some lose their dignity, some lose their illusions, and some quietly reclaim themselves. People watching this might think revenge is about causing pain. It isn't. It's about refusing to carry someone else's shame in silence. The rehearsal ended without music. Chairs remained half-turned. Flowers stood untouched. The future everyone imagined had dissolved quietly, without needing to be announced. I walked out alone. The night air was cool, steady, indifferent. For the first time in months, I could breathe without carrying expectation. Without performing the role everyone trusted me to play. My phone vibrated. Sana's name filled the screen. I let it ring. Not out of anger, not out of punishment, but because there was nothing left to negotiate. Some truths don't need discussion. They only need acceptance. In the days that followed, people called me strong, calm, dignified. They were wrong. I wasn't strong because I exposed them. I was strong because I didn't beg them to stay. I learned that betrayal doesn't destroy you. It reveals you. It strips away the illusion of who people pretend to be and gives you the chance to see yourself clearly without compromise. I didn't lose a fiancé. I didn't lose a brother. I lost the versions of them that never truly existed. And in their absence, I finally met someone who never betrayed me. Myself.